forced by Franklin.
On 2nd and 10, Nix to the end zone. Touchdown!
Who would have thought, but the Denver Broncos have secured their first winning season since 2016 and are now one step closer to the playoffs after they rallied against the Indianapolis Colts. I'm going to talk all about that game, I'm going to talk about the season it's been for Denver, and so much more. But before I begin, I would really appreciate it if you would drop a like and subscribe. It only takes 5 seconds, plus you can always change your mind. We are on the road to 40,000 subscribers, and with your support, I believe that we can get there super fast. So another victory, the Broncos improved to 9-5. It wasn't a pretty game. There were some offensive struggles against a team that isn't necessarily known for defense. But with their backs against the wall, Bo Nix and the Broncos showed some of that resilience they have by fighting back and getting the job done when they were on the ropes. Jonathan Taylor dropping that ball before getting into the end zone was definitely insane. It was a moment where you thought the season was over, but all of a sudden, it was like, wait, the ball never made it in. It was a complete change of events. This was a game that had a drastic impact on the playoff outlook, because if they lost, the Broncos' chances to get in would have been about 50-50. But now that we know they won, the chances are looking pretty good as long as they stay locked in for the last few games of the season. This game really was nuts. The stadium was dead quiet, there were some boo birds, and when that Jonathan Taylor play happened, the Broncos had a brand new energy. They were going to make sure that the Colts paid the price for the mistake. I know the offense wasn't smooth sailing, but the Sooners stepped up. 2 guys from Oklahoma made big plays, and it all started with Marvin Mims, who was very effective on special teams. And Nate Atkins caught a touchdown pass from Nix to give Denver its first lead of the game. But yeah, offensively, every time the Broncos tried to get something going, something negative would happen. Even though the Broncos did win, there was a lot to look at and improve on going into next week. And then Nick Bonnitto, 2 games in a row getting a pick 6, he really busted the game open. He made the play the Broncos needed to bring back the electricity to the stadium. And from there, it was all Denver the rest of the way. You could tell that the Colts could kind of sense that they let one slip away. So even though this football game wasn't pretty through 3 quarters, once Denver flipped the switch in the 4th, it was pretty after that. I think they really can and will take this momentum over to next week's game against the Chargers. Bo Nix had 3 touchdowns, but this may have been his worst performance since all the way back to week 2. He just looked very unsettled. He threw that 1 interception, and you could tell it really rattled him because after that moment, every time he dropped back in the pocket, you had to hold your breath. He just didn't naturally look like himself, but I thought the guys around him really picked him up. I think saying the offense was rough would be putting it nicely. But the special teams unit and Marvin Mims really were the hero of the game. Like, there was a whole entire quarter where it felt like the Broncos were on the Colts side of the field. That was how they were able to put up 31 points. And if you didn't watch this game and you just looked at the scoreboard, you would have thought this was a normal game that was dominated by Denver, but that was just not the case. And one area that has really been struggling is the run game. You can't expect to get production from anyone, and it's pretty sad to see. I don't think you can specifically blame one guy or the offensive line as a unit, but they just haven't been able to figure it out. Like, you can't even trust anyone to get a 1-yard gain on 3rd and 1 to pick up a first down. The entire offense lays on the shoulder of Bo Nix, and when he occasionally has a bad game like we just saw, the offense just becomes stagnant because the opponents know they just have to shut down the receivers. Like, it's ridiculous. Bo Nix only rushed for 23 yards, but was the leading rusher on the stat sheet. And because of that, I think he felt the need to force things to happen, which led to those 3 interceptions. I've really, coming into this season, expected Javonte Williams and McLaughlin to be a lot better than what they have been. But I guess it is what it is. There were so many times in this game where the Broncos would throw on 1st and 10, it would be an incompletion, and then it was 2nd and 10, or even if there was a completion, it was 2nd and 5, and then they would hand the ball off and couldn't even get a yard, which set up so many 3rd and longs. But yeah, enough of the negatives. There was a lot of struggle, but it was still a convincing win score-wise, and some guys really did step up, including Bo Nix, who kind of got back to even after throwing those 3 interceptions with 3 impressive touchdown throws. Moving forward, as the Broncos look to wrap up their season, the offense is going to have to clean things up, because the defense is not always going to create a ton of turnovers like they did. It's just not realistic, and Marvin Mims isn't going to always set you up with great field position. The analytics bros obviously aren't going to like this game from Bo Nix. He got trigger happy, he wasn't comfortable, but I really do think he's going to study the film, and he's going to come out next week firing. And the receivers got to step up their game too, because there was a drop from pretty much everyone. Next game, on 3rd and 1, the Broncos have got to find a way to pick up the yard on the ground. I don't care if it's Javonte, I don't care if it's a QB sneak with Nix, I don't care how it gets done. But making Bo Nix throw the ball in a situation like that, which led to an interception, is just not going to get it done. I mean, it's the NFL. You gotta be able to get a yard on the ground if you truly want to be a team that can do something in the postseason. The Broncos play again on Thursday, and I think this is both a good and bad thing. It gives them a chance to shake off the bad very quickly, but at the same time, they have less amount of time to prepare and watch film. Today, as I'm recording, was probably a rest day. Tomorrow will be a walkthrough without pads. Then Wednesday will be more in-depth preparation. And then Thursday, just like that, it's showtime. The reason why I'm so excited for this matchup is because both Denver and the Chargers are teams coming into this season that nobody really expected much from. But now this is a game that will be huge for determining playoff position. I think this could be a track meet, but I'm definitely curious to hear what you guys think this game will be like. I definitely think the Broncos are going to try to fix what went wrong this week, and it's always nice to learn from a win. Here's what some of the guys and media had to say following the W against the Colts.
Had a hard time getting the run game going, and then, we turned the ball over 3 times in the air. So that's never going to be, the recipe for success. But when you flip the other side of the field, our defense, gets 5 turnovers, and, one goes for another touchdown, and that just changes the game. I mean, when we keep getting the ball back in good field position, eventually, we got to score, and that's what we were able to do today.
Hey, got to give it up, dude. Got to give it up. When Sean Payton made Russell Wilson the largest dead cap quarterback player, period, in the history of the NFL, and went and drafted Bo Nix, everybody thought he just had to take the last guy off the board out of desperation. Mark Schlereth said in hour number 1 that he was the guy that he was targeting outside, I imagine, of all the other quarterbacks that he knew he had no shot at. And look what he's done with him. Unreal. And Nix is he's thrown 5 interceptions in the last 2 games, and they've won both games. Because the defense is very opportunistic. I mean,
Yep.
For sure.
That's really all I have for this video. Thank you all so much if you made it to this point, and if you enjoyed and haven't yet, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe, because your support truly does mean the world. And also, let me know what you'd like to see next, and until then, I will see you all later.